Hey, this is Jeff from Knock. We provide infrastructure to send product and customer messaging, and we're really excited to introduce the Knock MCP server, which will let you work with resources inside of your Knock account using natural language and AI tools like Cursor or Claude Desktop. With the Knock MCP server, you can create email layouts, partials, or entire cross-channel workflows using text or voice commands directly from your own tools. We've already had customers accelerate their own work using the MCP server, and I'm excited for you to do the same. In this video, I'm going to show you how to configure the Knock MCP server in a code editor like Cursor. Then we'll also look at how to configure it in an app like Claude Desktop. And finally, I'll walk you through the basics of using the tools that the Knock MCP server exposes to accelerate your day-to-day tasks. So let's get started. Okay. So let's pretend I'm on the engineering team at Collab.io, and I've been tasked with creating a new workflow that we run each time we create a new user. Let's see how I can use the Knock MCP server to accelerate my development of this feature. To get started, we'll look at how to configure the Knock MCP server in a code editor like Cursor. So to get started, I can head out to the Knock documentation and head over to the Developer Tools tab, where you can see this MCP server beta page. And if we scroll down, we'll see that we already have some configuration JSON objects listed here for Cursor. So we'll go ahead and copy this to our clipboard, and then let's hop into Cursor. To add a new MCP server to Cursor, we can go to Cursor, and then open up the Cursor settings menu option, and we can navigate down here to MCP. If you don't see MCP listed here as an option, you might just need to upgrade Cursor. So we'll go ahead and click into that and then click add a new global MCP server to open up our global configuration object. We'll go ahead and just paste in that configuration that we got from the Knock docs, and then we'll walk through what's happening here. So we're adding this Knock MCP server as a local MCP server, which means that anytime Cursor recognizes that we need to call one of these tools, it will run this npx command and pass in these arguments. You can see here that we'll need one piece of information from the Knock dashboard to finish this configuration. So to generate a service token, we can head back into the Knock dashboard, go over to settings, and then service tokens, and we'll generate a new token. I'll call this Jeff's Cursor. And we'll want to give this a descriptive name because you might end up generating lots of different service tokens. And unlike API keys, each service token gives access to all of the resources inside of your Knock account. So you'll want to be really certain about what that particular token is being used for. So I'll click generate and then copy the service token, and we can hop back into Cursor to finish our configuration. Go ahead and paste that there, and we can close out this mcp.json file. And so once we have completed the configuration, Cursor should recognize our MCP server and list out all of the available tools that are provided by that server. If we ever want to toggle the server on or off, we can do that here. And we can also refresh the configuration using this option, like if new tools were added. So let's go ahead and test and make sure that this is working. So we can see here that this first tool available is this list channels tool. So let's go ahead and go over into the chat interface part of Cursor, and let's give it a prompt that should trigger that list channels tool. So we'll go ahead and say something like, can you list all of the channels inside of my Knock account? And let's send that prompt. And Cursor should interpret that, realize that it needs to call the list channels tool, and then ask us for approval, depending on how you've set your IDE settings. So I'll click run tool, and then Cursor should be able to actually use that tool and return us some information about our Knock channels. Awesome. That's how you configure the Knock MCP server in a code editor like Cursor. Next, we'll look at how to do the same thing in an app like Claude Desktop. Okay, So now that we have Cursor configured, let's take a look at how to do the same thing for Claude Desktop. The process isn't really that much different. So with the docs open, we can just scroll down to the Claude Desktop heading, and we'll see there a JSON configuration optimized for that application. So let's copy that to our clipboard, and then we can open Claude Desktop itself. From here, we'll go up to the settings menu. Then we'll come down to the developer option and click Edit Config. This is going to open up the internals of the Claude Desktop app and show us a JSON config file. So we'll click on this and open with your favorite code editor like VS Code, and we'll see a JSON object very similar to what we saw when we were dealing with Cursor. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in my JSON configuration object, and you'll see that we still also need that service token from the Knock dashboard. So we'll go ahead and hop into the Knock dashboard, into service tokens, and then we'll click create new token again, and we'll give this a specific name. So we'll say Jeff's Claude Desktop, generate that service token and copy it to our clipboard. And then all we need to do is replace this inside of our JSON file. So we'll do that, and then we'll go ahead and close that file, and we'll open up the Claude Desktop app again. And now one thing that we'll need to do here is refresh Claude Desktop. So I'm gonna go ahead and quit and then really quickly reopen. And if we open up the settings menu again, and come back to developer, we should see that Knock MCP server now listed there. And if we click on it, we can sort of get some information about it, like its arguments and whether or not it's running. And then we could also delete that if we wanted to. So now that that's in place, let's give Claude Desktop the same command that we gave Cursor. So let's say, can you list the channels in my Knock account? And we'll go ahead and fire that prompt. And awesome. Much like we saw in Cursor, Claude Desktop is also going to ask us to approve this tool call based on our settings. So we'll go ahead and click allow once, which you could allow always if you wanted to be a little bit more permissive with tools from MCP servers you trust. Awesome. And then this will show us the request, and then it will start printing out all of our different channels. Awesome. So that's the basics of configuring the Knock MCP server for Claude Desktop. Next, let's look at some of the different tools that are available with the Knock MCP server. So the Knock MCP server exposes a lot of tools out of the box. If you want a full reference on what those tools are, you can come to the Developer Tools tab, and under Agent Toolkit, you'll notice this tools reference page that lists all of the available tools and provides a quick description of what they do. If you've used our management API, you'll notice that there's a lot of overlap, and that's because we built the MCP server to expose a lot of this management API functionality to agents like Cursor or Claude Desktop. Now, if you want to limit the amount of tools that are exposed by the MCP server, we can configure the available tools by passing in additional flags. By default, they are all exposed, but you could also expose just a subset if you wanted to by passing additional arguments into this command. Now, one additional thing that's pretty cool about the MCP server and Agent Toolkit is, in addition to exposing all of this management API functionality, we also expose workflows as tools if you want to configure it that way. To do that, we can pass in this workflows flag and the individual keys of the workflows that we want to expose, which lets an MCP client or an agent invoke those workflows on your behalf. Hopefully that gives you a better understanding of all of the tools that are available to you as a part of the MCP server, and a better understanding of how to add or remove tools from a particular implementation of that MCP server if you need to. Awesome. Thanks for watching. In this video, we covered how to get started using Knock's MCP server in code editors like Cursor or apps like Claude Desktop. We also covered how to learn more about the tools the Knock MCP server exposes. So hopefully you can use the MCP server to accelerate your customer messaging projects. Stay tuned for more videos in this series about how you can use the Knock MCP server. Thanks for watching, and knock on.